My name is Colette Panko. I'm here to provide my support for Bill 225, the Public School Amendment Act. Our daughter Hazel has always been a kid on the move with people to meet. She is curious and bright, with a genuine interest in the world around her and the people she meets. She has empathy for others, a generosity of spirit, as well as an almost preternatural ability to connect with other people. I remember in grade 2, Hazel telling us that she was interested in learning to read. My husband and I are passionate readers, and sharing stories with Hazel has been one of the greatest joys of parenthood. We were thrilled to talk about books with Hazel, hear her ideas about them, but despite our family's collective enthusiasm, Hazel's considerable efforts to read did not seem to be producing any results. I quickly learned that just knowing how to read myself did not qualify me as a teacher of reading. Our cozy family book club was becoming a source of frustration for all of us. At that point, we approached her grade 2 teacher for tips and tricks, but she indicated that Hazel was fine and that things would just click eventually. And these are themes that I'm sure you've heard many times already tonight. We decided to sign her up with a reading coach, and within 1 or 2 lessons, the tutor asked to speak with Hazel's teacher. The coach felt like something was different, but didn't want to infer too much, given the fact that Hazel was an immersion student and the coach was not sure what were reasonable expectations across teaching curricula. Again, Hazel's classroom teacher confidently said that everything was fine, that Hazel's on target with her learning, and the matter was set aside. In hindsight, I wish we had had more information about screening tools. What was informing her teacher's confidence? I now understand how Bill 225 would provide a provincial standardization for tools used so that parents like us could potentially have had better language for our concerns and maybe a framework to guide discussion with the school. Towards the end of grade 3, we decided to pursue independent testing to reassure ourselves. While we had faith in her classroom teacher, who was a kind and capable woman whom Hazel had just adored, we knew that the stakes were just too high. We told ourselves that we could just put Hazel's name on the 8-month wait list for a psychological screening, and if the reading suddenly just clicked in as we were promised, we reasoned that we could just cancel the appointment. The testing cost of $3,000 was very high, and despite partial health insurance coverage, this amount was high enough to prompt several conversations about affordability before proceeding. When the appointment and the report were finally complete, it was Christmas of Hazel's grade 4 year. This was the time when most of her peers were well on their way to literacy. The result of her assessment confirmed our suspicion of dyslexia. We have since learned that the current Manitoba Education Universal Early Reading Screening Plan mandates 2 screenings per year, similar to the proposed Bill 225, without the addition of mandatory follow-up for students. Students like Hazel can and do remain hidden in classrooms. After Hazel's diagnosis, we found ourselves mid-year trying to find out about fee-for-service dyslexia instruction in the city, which has limited options and is very expensive. The school strongly discouraged us to pursue any kind of literacy instruction during the day, but Hazel was so tired by 3 o'clock she could hardly concentrate. While her school did make some efforts to provide additional instruction through a Barton coach, these coaches were often switched, scheduling was irregular, and sessions were canceled frequently. We were told by the school that virtually all EA resources were being rerouted to assist with a huge influx of young learners in the school. While Hazel is slowly and steadily improving at reading, we have continued worries that we as parents have not done enough. Hazel works extremely hard at learning, harder than my partner and I have worked at her age, and for lesser results. Her grade 5 teacher informed us at the end of last year that Hazel's falling progressively behind in all subjects. She noted again how there is a dearth of resources to support bringing Hazel to grade level, and consequently, there is no concrete plan in place to alter her downward learning trend. With heavy hearts, our family made the difficult decision to send Hazel to a private school, where we were promised adequate interventions to support her. As all parents do, we second-guess our decisions. This particular one involves sending her away from her home community, away from her circle of friends, in exchange for educational support for dyslexia. It is important to overlook it is impossible to overlook the role of privilege in our dyslexia story. That so many opportunities are available to Hazel as a result of being an only child in a household of 2 professional income earners should not be lost on anyone here. From diagnosis to tutoring and now private school, our ability to pay out of pocket has thus far been an essential component to Hazel's road to literacy. I'm acutely aware of how different this looks and would look and does look for thousands of other families. My spouse and I do not have backgrounds in education. We don't purport to understand the subtle nuances of this bill, nor can we go back in time and restart Hazel's education with this Bill 225 in place in order to compare outcomes. We do understand our own experience, which shows us that the current system does not go far enough to identify and support students like Hazel. Students who will become our province's next generation of workers, of citizens, and of community builders. We respectfully request that you pass this bill. As Hazel's mom and her advocate, I chose to be here today to ensure that a record exists, both of her presence within the public school system as a dyslexic learner, and now the absence of it as well. While change is too slow to come to amend our daughter's story, my hope is that in knowing she exists, you, the committee, can find inspiration and fortitude for implementing the changes required to allow all the Hazels currently hidden within Manitoba classrooms and all the Hazels still to come to have a chance to succeed where our daughter could not. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Panko. Emily Lamoureux.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, and thank you for sticking around this evening and for sharing your presentation and for sharing so much about Hazel's experience through the school system. I'm very sorry that you had to move schools to have different access, better access, perhaps in this case, to resources. My hope is that this legislation will ensure that no parent has to do that in the future going forward here in Manitoba. I was wondering if you shared this legislation with Hazel and just if she had any thoughts about it.
Ms. Panko.
We did, she has a vague understanding that we're here today to try and advocate for other children with dyslexia. And so she's proud of that. I feel like being in her current school has maybe, I see more of a sense of empowerment for her because she's around other children with learning difficulties and it's just normalized in a very different way. So I feel like she feels proud, yeah.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Emily Cook.
Thank you so much for your presentation. You being here and many of the other presenters tonight, Hazel's name and her story are now part of the official record and will be forever. So you've done a really good thing being here tonight. And one of the things I picked up on in your presentation was just highlighting the ways that this legislation builds on the minister's directive and includes elements that maybe weren't in the directive and strengthen it. And I think you've reinforced why it's really important that we pass this legislation. So thank you.
Ms. Panko.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Yep, Emily King.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and Mrs. Panko, thank you for being here and sharing your story, your presentation, along with all the other presenters here tonight. You sat here and you waited all night, and the support group that you've got around you, because you had the first presenter here tonight is still here supporting one that's getting closer to the last. But it's an eye-opener for some of us, hearing these heartfelt stories. I had 4 boys of my own and never had to go through what some of you folks have gone through with your emotional and financial hardships. The toughest thing I had to do with my boys was try and help them with their math that I had no idea what I was doing. I felt like I was the one with the learning disability. But far too often we take for granted how fortunate some of us are. And my heart goes out to each and every one of you for what you've had to go through. Thank you all so much for being here. I look forward to supporting a bill that we all can come together on and pass. Thank you.
Ms. Panko.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Minister Schmidt.
Yeah, thank you. In the interest of time, thank you very, very much for your presentation. And our government's hope is that with our ministerial directive that we issued in April, making sure that these universal early reading screening tools are available in schools this year and immediately, will make sure that stories like your child's hopefully are not repeated. That's what I think we can all agree why we're here tonight. You mentioned that you're not a legislative or a legal expert, and I would argue you don't need to be. We don't, this ministerial directive is, I believe, accomplishing what we all intend to accomplish here tonight. So thank you very much.
Ms. Panko,
Thank you.
any further questions? Thank you for your presentation this evening.